Vikings at Bears. Kickoff Sunday, October 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern. Over-under 44. Game overview. By high-low. Justin Jefferson hit injured reserve this week with a hamstring injury. He'll miss the next 4 weeks. Quick side note there, I don't personally believe he would pull some "our team is out of it and Kirk Cousins got traded, so I'll prolong this absence" type antics. KJ Osborn has run 194 routes this season, the 7th most in the league, 121 of which have come from the slot. That means we're likely to see both Jordan Addison and Brandon Powell involved from 11 personnel. The big question is whether it's Addison or Powell from heavy sets, 21 and 12 personnel. The Bears are likely to be in some deep water at running back this week. More on this later. How Minnesota will try to win. The Vikings continue to play with extreme pace, third fastest overall pace at 25.8 seconds per play, and extreme pass rates, first in pass attempts per game at 40.8, and fourth in pass rate over expectation on offense, while Brian Flores does his best Wink Martindale impression on defense, leading the league in blitz rate by more than 10%, but changing course from Martindale's man-heavy ways to run league average rates of man and zone behind it. While not necessarily successful in either defensive alignment, they have been far worse when in man, allowing 9.7 yards per target in that coverage compared to 7.1 when in zone. Considering teams typically play heavier rates of zone coverage against the Bears due to Fields' mobility and other rushing quarterbacks, expect that to be the percentage solution here. Cam Akers has played exactly 29% of the team's snaps in each week since being acquired prior to Week 4, but his opportunity share shot up in his second time out for the Vikings. That said, the negative game environment against the Chiefs could be the primary causal factor there, as he saw exactly 7 opportunities in each game. The negative game environment last week also led to reduced rates of 12 personnel and a larger emphasis on 11 personnel, which included higher utilization of fullback CJ Ham in the backfield with no other back, reducing Alexander Madison's snap rate to just 51%. It doesn't seem like a full takeover from Akers is imminent here, but we could see a continued emphasis on Ham in game environments where the Vikings find themselves behind. Contrary to popular belief, the Bears' run defense is non-terrible, allowing just 1.17 yards before contact and 3.7 yards per carry this season. Consider the Bears a pass funnel defense until further notice. Continuing that discussion, Chicago has yielded 7.7 net yards per pass attempt this season, which ranks second worst in the league behind only the Broncos, who are a true attack them however you want and less pass funnel, but that's neither here nor there. The Bears are in man coverage at the 4th highest rate this season and allow a startling 9.0 yards per target against when in zone, second worst in the league. Gone are Jefferson's 24% targets per route run rate against zone coverage this season, and it isn't likely to be KJ Osborn that soaks those looks up considering his paltry .22 fantasy points per route run against zone coverages this year. Addison has a 16.9% targets per route run rate and .39 fantasy points per route run against zone coverages this year, and stands as the player likeliest to see the largest boost to his counting stats and utilization rate in the absence of Jefferson. Tight end TJ Hawkinson is a natural zone beater in his current role and stands to see a slight uptick in targets per route run rate without Jefferson in the lineup, but a 6.6 ADOT with just 1 deep target on the season leaves him a thin needle to thread against any opponent, largely dependent on his ability to rack up targets and find the end zone, potentially more than once. Finally, Brandon Powell should step into an increased role from 11 personnel for the Vikings this week, and his familiarity with head coach Kevin O'Connell should keep him on the field from 3 wide sets. How Chicago will try to win. Offensive coordinator Luke Getsy and head coach Matt Eberflus seem intent on developing quarterback Justin Fields into a pocket passer that can also run, and away from a mobile quarterback whose unique skill set can be leveraged into downfield work. That has led to some pretty sweet game logs for Fields, alpha wide receiver DJ Moore, and tight end Cole Kmet over the previous 2 games. Those 2 games came against the reeling Broncos, who hold the league's worst defense in almost every single metric this season, and the man-heavy Commanders, whom Moore exploited for the best game of his career in Week 5. On the top level, Chicago is playing with pace, 10th ranked 27.9 seconds per play, with elevated rush rates, coming in at 23rd in pass rate over expectation. The Bears are likely to be in some deep water at running back this week. Rookie Roschon Johnson suffered a concussion in Week 5. Quick reminder that the only player to play the game immediately following a concussion this season was Packers tight end Luke Musgrave, and he entered the protocol on Thursday and didn't play again until Monday the next week, as in Johnson isn't likely to play in Week 6. Khalil Herbert is doubtful with an ankle injury, and Travis Homer hasn't practiced, as of Thursday, with a hamstring injury. That leaves the bulk of the backfield to Donta Foreman, who has been a healthy and active in each of the previous 4 games, and Kari Blasingame, who is primarily a special teams player. I would loosely expect the Bears to adopt a more pass-balanced game plan considering the state of their backfield. Foreman is no slouch, but there is something to be said that he was a healthy and active for 4 consecutive games. Finally, the matchup on the ground is non-ideal against a Vikings team holding opponents to just 3.5 yards per attempt. DJ Moore ranks 8th in yards per route run at wide receiver, 2.98, 15th in total air yards, 444, 3rd in yards after catch, 229, and 14th in share of available air yards at 37.6%, while Cole Kmet ranks 5th in yards per route run at tight end, 1.83, 9th in total air yards, 194, 8th in yak, 102, and 7th in share of available air yards, 16.4%. Over the previous 2 games, those two have accounted for a massive 75.9% of the team's receiving yardage and 7 of the team's 8 receiving scores. This pass offense is about as concentrated as they come currently. The Vikings rank 21st in net yards allowed per pass attempt at 6.3 and have allowed 9 passing scores through 5 games, 5th most in the league. Darnell Mooney is the only other pass catcher to play meaningful snaps in this offense, but he currently holds a minuscule 11.9% targets per route run rate, albeit with a solid ADOT of 13.1. Likeliest game flow. The Vikings like to pass the football, are without their alpha wide receiver, and play one of the more pass funnel defenses in the league in the Bears. The Bears like to run a run-balanced offense, but are likely to be without their top 3 running backs. A lot is pointing to a rather pass-heavy affair between these 2 teams this week. Even so, the Vikings are likely to want to utilize increased rates of 12 personnel for as long as they can in this spot, meaning the path to this game environment erupting likely goes through the Bears, not necessarily a terrible place to be based on recent history. Luke Getsy has demonstrated an excellent ability to game plan for his opponents over the previous 2 weeks, but has struggled with game management and adaptability deeper into games, which has translated to elevated levels of scoring in the first half that falls off in the second half, in Week 4 and Week 5. The Bears have scored 48 first-half points in their previous 2 games and just 20 second-half points. But that plus to game planning is a boost to the expected game environment here, considering the Vikings truly open up their offense to elite levels of passing when playing from behind.